Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. Well, by virtue of our profession, meteorologists tend to remember a lot of dates. And while much of the United States was awaiting Punxsutawney Phil's projections for spring, we were reminiscing about the Groundhog's Day blizzard of 2011. This is Lakeshore Drive in Chicago, where we had snowdrifts that were several feet deep after getting almost 2 feet of snow. When I think back on this day, I'll remember this snow swath, which extended from near Kansas City through Chicago into Michigan, then into the Northeast, where some places around Chicago, as you can see, they're easily getting between 18 and 24 inches of snow out of this. Where I live right here in Champaign, we joke about this storm system as giving us sleet till death, and so we just had 7 inches of ice that just was encased parts of central Illinois here. But I think I'll remember this map most. You know, we always talk about how colorful the all hazards weather map can get, and we know to worry when it gets fairly colorful. But this is a large extent to see a blizzard warning. Winter storm warnings extended this entire region, wind chill on the backside here, and severe weather to the south. This was an incredibly active day. But the lesson about the blizzard of 2011 may be best told here. This is looking at the flow of the jet stream, looking straight down on the North Pole on the days leading up to that blizzard. And I want you to notice something. Stretching from parts of Africa, cutting through parts of Asia, and then coming around here into the Central Pacific was, just like we've seen lately, a very long and continuous branch of the polar jet stream. It then split, one piece rising up into Alaska, a second coming around the base, a subtropical piece, and then they came right back together right here over the western United States. What we ended up getting was a coupled jet situation where there was a strong piece of the jet stream to the south and to the north. And between the two, right in through here where I'm circling right now, we had excellent upper level support for the development of a low pressure system, and it was a big one. Now the split that was occurring here, well, if I could tell you all something, rather than listening closely to the groundhog, we should be paying a whole lot more attention when thinking about any of our forecasts, both near term and long term. We should be focusing more on the Gulf of Alaska and Alaska as the true bellwether as to the flow pattern across North America. So with that kind of as a setup, take a look at this. This is the forecast by the middle of this week for our jet stream. Same view as you just saw. What's the jet stream doing? Well, there are some similarities. Look at how the polar jet stream is screaming just like it was this same time period back in 2011. It then split into a big ridge here that went up in the Gulf of Alaska, and the subtropical branch came around the south side. There is a jet streak here and a jet streak there, meaning midweek this week, we need to be watching parts of the central Mississippi River Valley getting over the Ohio River Valley for the development of a low. Now, I'm not saying it's going to look anything like the big blizzards we saw, the blizzard we saw back in 2011, but things do look very similar overall. So our all hazards weather map this morning, much of the action's out in the west where the deeper trough currently sits. We've already got winter storm warnings out for Utah, parts of Idaho, and Wyoming, where the snow is already flying this morning. And we'll see this kind of move into the Colorado Rockies here as the system begins to eject into the Central Plains. But before it does that, strong winds out for parts of the Southwest, including a freeze watch in the Central Valley of California. Let's take a look at those strong winds first. In the upper levels of the atmosphere, there's our split flow, okay? And it comes together into this large ridge that runs over the eastern half of the United States. So just to keep you oriented, here is the west coast of North America. So what this is our setup. Here's the deeper trough that's currently in place that is going to be there throughout much of this week. Well, at the upper levels, the winds are doing this, and at the surface, they're doing this. We can see the strong winds out in the western part of the United States, but it's this main dividing line right here that we're going to keep a close eye on, because the low pressure system that will be forming, 2 of them this week, are going to ride that frontal boundary. Fed on plenty of moisture around this high pressure cell over the southeast, this active pattern is ready to go throughout this week, so prepare for this. First of all, like I said, let's start off west. These are wind gusts we're anticipating throughout the day today, and it's going to be extremely windy in parts of Arizona, New Mexico, as well as parts of Utah, Nevada, and Southern California, where gusts today could easily get in the 30 to 40 mile an hour range with much higher values as you go up the peaks, especially in Southern California. In addition addition to that, we will be watching over the next 3 days, so Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, for the temperatures in the Central Valley of California, especially in the San Joaquin Valley down here, possibly dipping into the mid to upper 20s with temperatures. Now, the lower values you see here and here, these are up in the mountains, but we could be getting some pretty chilly temperatures in the LA basin as well. So we need to be on the lookout for that. Very important for ag in the Central Valley of California right now. Okay, elsewhere, these were the temperatures compared to normal on Groundhog's Day. And you can see that it was really only parts of Florida and Washington, Oregon that saw here in the lower 48 below normal temperatures. Much of the rest of the country much above average, including the Canadian prairies, getting over to the Hudson Bay. Now, why I want to show you this is the significance of this on our snowpack. So I'm excited to see this map tomorrow, but just the total amount of snow melt that happened through early yesterday morning, but we can see where that snow was melting. And throughout the day yesterday, this extended much farther to the north as those warmer temperatures came in here. So we'll see the new map tomorrow as to how much we did lose in terms of snowfall. But some of this will be replaced with this upcoming week, so let's get talking about that. What I've got over here on the right is total accumulated precipitation through the next week. A couple of things I'm on the lookout for. With the flow still split over in the Gulf of Alaska, the Pacific Northwest, and the Northern Rockies, we're going to be getting quite a bit more snow here, packing it in. And we're already above average in that area, while California has slowly been drying out over the last 45 days. We're going to watch for a snow swath to develop here, starting in western Texas and then running right in through this area, eventually getting into the northeast. I'll show you more details on that in a few moments. I'm concerned about icing potential right in through here, and then it's to the south of that region that we have the best chances for flooding range. You can see from Arkansas clear to the mid-Atlantic and then back down to the Gulf Coast, widespread region here of 1 to 3 inches of rainfall. We need to pay close attention to the Gulf Coast as well, as we're going to see a multi-day setup here for severe weather. I'll show you those details as well in a few moments. But I'm going to start off with snow. Let's go right here to the probability of getting at least 3 inches of snowfall through the end of this week. And we can see the probabilities are relatively high right in through this corridor as the second system, not the first, but the second system comes out of the Rocky Mountains here. So 50 to 60% chance of getting some snow, better than 3 inches in that corridor. Now the Northeast, you've got multiple chances over the next 15 days, especially in the interior, of picking up quite a bit of snowfall, and that will extend into the Appalachian Mountains. But since we're talking mountains, this will be a week that parts of the central and northern Rockies are going to really add it up, as are the Cascades, while the flow splits around California. You don't see anything right here in the Sierra Nevada, which has continued to be a problem for California. Turning over here to NOAA and the National Weather Service, we're looking here at the probability of getting at least 2 inches of snow over the next 72 hours. So this takes us out to early morning on Thursday. We can see that main snow swath defined quite well here from parts of New Mexico and Texas, getting through Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, stretching through east central Illinois, and then heading off to the north and east, cutting through parts of Indiana on its way. So that's what we're looking at in terms of snowfall from NOAA. Let's also see what they're concerned about in terms of ice. And I wanted to get to this because we're going to see a multi-day chance at getting some ice here in parts of southern Indiana, getting over really into central Ohio and into Pennsylvania. And I want to show you that here in a few moments in some detail. But let's just kind of keep this broader idea going here. With the flow splitting and the trough coming in out west, this will continue to draw moisture in from the Gulf, and we're going to see this section of the United States staying wet all the way through the middle of the month. Our longer range forecasts have picked up on this. Now the near term forecasts are, so this is week 2 precipitation probabilities compared to normal, or precipitation amounts compared to normal. I drew on the map for the GFS ensemble. You see almost identical features in the European. So with that as our setup, let's now get into some of the temperature details here. All right, over the next 5 days, with the deeper trough sinking in, yes, temperatures are really dropping here out west. But with that larger ridge still setting at place here, feeding in the moisture, we're going to stay above average in the eastern half of the United States. As we get out to days 5 through 10, we still see a very similar setup overall, but the pattern is just readjusting here toward the middle of the month, and we go back over into this. So with the big ridge pushing here, We notice the cooler weather is dislodged into the western United States, but the southeast is protected by a larger ridge here, and that's what keeps the eastern half of the country on the warmer side of things. The fact that we're keeping Greenland cold and the North Atlantic Oscillation still in its positive phase is helping aid in the warmth that's going to stay in the eastern half of the United States. Overall, we'll get some shots of cooler air, but overall a warmer pattern. Plus, when we put this together with what the polar vortex is doing, this story seems to make sense as we work our way through mid-February. Now, how about some details on this? Got two systems to watch initially this week. The first one has a problem that in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, we have one trough here and a second trough here. And this trough is advancing a bit farther to the east and faster, therefore decoupling itself from this one. Now, if they could align, we would have much better upper level support. So what does this give us? This tells me that instead of having a deep low early in the week forming in the midsection of the United States, I'm going to have one high pressure cell sitting here and another high pressure cell sitting here, and right in between the two is where we're going to just have overrunning precipitation. That's because this trough back here has yet to sweep through. We're going to wait on it later in the week, because later in the week it does this. We get a shortwave that comes right here out of the Pacific Northwest, and by the time we get into Thursday morning, the trough is dislodged here. There's a second piece of it right there, and they're perfectly lined up. And as this pivots through, which means this trough is going to go from tilting this positive tilt to negative tilt, it's going to sweep through, giving us really good upper level support to develop a low right in through this area. So to the south, severe weather. In that region, heavy rain. And on the north side of it, right in through here, is where we get the snow. This is a classic setup. So let's talk about the severe weather. Now, I produced this video before we got the early morning updates from the Storm Prediction Center. So we're going to watch this. Go to spc.noaa.gov to get the latest. But on Tuesday, we're going to watch for the main severe weather threat in parts of the lower Mississippi River Valley. And on Wednesday, this slides east over into parts of the southeast, specifically parts of the panhandle of Florida, southern Alabama, and Mississippi. This will then likely move on Thursday to encompass this region over here in parts of the southeast, getting up through the mid-Atlantic. So that's where we're watching. 3 days this week on the lookout here. So here we go. Let's now finally get to our models. As I play this out for you first, this is getting through Monday into early Tuesday morning here, through Tuesday afternoon and evening, and then finally into Wednesday. This is system number 1. And as you notice, what we end up getting here is heavy snow moving through the mountains today. And then the two high pressure cells are in competition. So here's one here, the other one's up here. And between the two, we're just squeezing the air. So remember, the flow goes like this around a high. So it's coming out of the Gulf. Now watch, if I put the same motion over this high, so the cold air is coming in like this, the warm air is coming in like that, and they meet. So what I'm concerned about, this is valid early tomorrow morning, is as that rain spreads from parts of Arkansas through the Tennessee and Ohio Valley, the cold air on the backside may undercut the warmer air that will be overrunning it. And so you can see on Tuesday evening, this corridor right in through here may be dealing with the threat of some ice. We're going to have to be very careful in this area. So that's why we saw that region highlighted by NOAA as having a high risk of getting some freezing rain. So Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning. Now, by the time I get you there, we're already watching the next two systems. So remember, the flow comes crashing over to the northwest into this deeper trough, developing our next low right here in parts of Texas. So let's get over to that system by going over to the European model. So press play and let's pause it right here. This is now Wednesday morning, getting into Wednesday afternoon and evening. You can see the low coming out here of Texas, and we're going to have to watch for the potential for heavy snow in through this area, a blend of freezing rain and sleet in through there, and then rain to the south. Now this low will pull to the north and east, and I showed you right in through here would be the best area for upper level support on the development of a low. So we're going to watch the southern side of this for the potential for some stronger storms, but the northern side of it for snow. Now again, through parts of Missouri into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, that's the second chance. This is now overnight hours on Wednesday night into Thursday morning for more freezing rain. And we could get a bit of a cold air damming setup happening in parts of Pennsylvania, but then getting farther down south here for more freezing rain. But with this system lifting, see, it pulls north. Whoops, sorry, I went too fast there. As it lifts, we bring in rain behind this in parts of the Ohio Valley. And again, we're watching this area for more strong storms to the south, but definitely very wet conditions down here over the next 10 days. So let's just walk that back again and show you the system. Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. Overnight hours on Wednesday into Thursday morning here, Thursday afternoon and evening. So we see the system pulling to the northeast, and the heavy rain spreads through the mid-Atlantic, through parts of the Carolinas, and all the way down to Florida. Now that's this system moving through. Over the weekend, because the trough is still established out west, we're going to watch just other systems pulling through into early next week, and then again into middle of next week. So we're not shaking this pattern, and again, it's set up in Alaska. So we just bring this back together. I want to show you this map. Over the next 15 days, you can see the pattern. And the models have been advertising this pretty well for a while. The meteorology makes sense here. And I think this is the pattern we're going to be in at least through the middle of this month. So this is an area that I'm getting very concerned about given how wet things have been here for the last 45 days. Let's keep a very close eye on it because we're talking about planting down here already. We should be cranking on this and we'll get very, very wet conditions in the near term. Okay, from there I want to take this international. Oh, no, snow first. Over the next 15 days, where are the regions where we could at least get 6 inches of snow in terms of probability? With each one of these systems exiting in the northeast, I just want to keep this to your attention for those of you watching the northeast. This setup, while not brutally cold for the northeast, does have big chances for snow in the interior. The trickiest part will be right along the coast. We'll keep you up to date, though, with each new forecast. Okay, now let's go international. When we think about the major players, look up here in the upper left first. North Atlantic oscillation going very positive here. Remember, if the NA goes negative, that's cold for the East Coast. The Arctic oscillation, very positive. This tells me about the strength of the polar vortex. Remember, if we want brutal cold, we got to do this in the eastern half of the United States. The Mann-Julian oscillations in null phase, popping out phase 5-6, which supports warmth along the East Coast. And look at what happens by the time we get to the end of this week and early next week with where the polar vortex is moving. It is moving over to the other side of the northern hemisphere in this area, and I want to see if that might possibly couple with European weather, because we do notice that by the end of this week, Black Sea is right in through here. We could get a shot at some pretty cold air that comes through parts of the Russian wheat belt. Now, Western Europe, Northern Europe, not seeing the cold, but right around the Black Sea we are. So this is the forecast for next Saturday. Now, this is in degrees Celsius. So just remember about minus 10 Celsius. There it is. Minus 10 Celsius is 14 degrees Fahrenheit. The Black Sea is right here. So we will see this section of Ukraine and all of this section of Europe getting below 10 degrees or 14 degrees Fahrenheit, below 14 degrees Fahrenheit. And it goes all the way down to Turkey and extends into this area. So this is a good shot at some colder air. Right now, we're going to see the snow melt that is already in place right in through here. And the main snow line is pretty far to the north up here. This is all clouds. So this area is going to go in snow-free. Here's the big question. Is that area, which we can see right now, Black Sea is located in through here. You can see snow-free there, snow-free Ukraine, all right? Will that area stay snow-free before the cold air gets there? The models are suggesting some areas yes and other areas no. Over the next several days, this quarter and through here could pick up quite a bit of snow. Again, let me just get you oriented here. Black Sea is right there. So that's Ukraine, that's eastern Ukraine, and parts of the southern wheat belt in Russia getting some snow. But if we don't put down enough of it before the cold air comes in, we're going to have to watch out here for some, well, much below average temperatures for a long time on some exposed winter wheat. That's what this story is about. Remember, we've been watching this. To finish this up, I want to take you to South America. Over the next week, we are expecting very heavy rainfall in parts of Mato Grosso, Goiás, and the Tocantins in through here. They're right now about 35% harvested on that first crop of soybeans, and I've heard some yields are looking pretty good. Over the next 7 days, quite wet in that area. Southern Brazil showing up on the drier side of things, but these rains coming through this region in Argentina are absolutely critical for the health of that crop, and I'll be honest with you, a pretty large model failure over what we saw a week ago. We were not anticipating this much precipitation. We saw potential for some, but not quite this much, so that's going to be very beneficial for that Argentinian crop. I'm not showing you much beyond the next 7 days because the models right now are all over the place in the ensemble on predicting the pattern. pattern. So we're just going to leave it out and just keep a close eye on the near term where we have more confidence, okay? With that, I'm going to go and wrap it up right here. I thank you for your attention. We had a lot to cover in this video. Hope you all have a good week. Stay weather aware this week, as much of the United States is going to be dealing with quite a bit of adverse weather. We'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you.